A true warrior must show sympathy, mercy, and courtesy even to their biggest enemies. They must be unwavering and live a full life. Now, these are just some of the ideals of Bushido, the code of the samurai. And when it comes to Magic the Gathering, one woman specifically displays all of these better than anyone else. She's powerful, swift, kind, and just. She is the Wanderer, Empress of Kamigawa. Hands down, I personally love the Wanderer. She's easily one of my favorite characters in all of Magic for so many different reasons. Just for a little bit of context here, I got into Magic the Gathering shortly after Kamigawa Neon Dynasty released, and so this was one of the main sets that I initially just, got exposed to the entire game. I dove into everything there, and the Wandering Emperor was a card that I specifically got crazily fascinated with. I love the art, I love the function, and I genuinely think that this card specifically was one of the main reasons I ended up falling so hard for this game. Actually, 1 second. Where is it? Aha! Found it. I actually got this playmat, which is to this day one of my favorite I've ever owned, and I have played with this, I think, for a good 2 or 3 years. The art is fantastic. I think, as you will see, the character is fantastic. So let's get into it. Now, over the years, and especially for this video, I have learned so much about her. She doesn't simply planeswalk, she has to planeswalk. She has a broken spark, and she absorbs kinetic energy, releasing it at her enemies. A little bit like the Black Panther armor from the MCU or Charon from Fire Force, right? That's pretty sick, I gotta say, man. But I also really wanted to find out the truth behind her stoicism and her story, so today let's dive into the really interesting and crazy lore and find out together who the mysterious Empress of Kamigawa truly is. She who cannot stay. Now, turns out that my girl here wasn't always the Wanderer. Heck, she wasn't even a Wayfarer or a Nomad. She was just a princess? That's right, our nameless heir was born in a Ganjo castle, great card, and it turns out that she is bound to Kamigawa, not through duty or honor, but literally her spirit is baked into the dirt of the plane. She was spiritually tethered to the plane itself through the Kami Kyodai, which is essentially the living essence of Kamigawa's soul. And hey, what can I say? I love Ugin, so I'm all about more spirit dragons. Plus, I love the term Kami being used here, as it just means God in Japanese. As for that specific bond, it wasn't shaken or stirred, it was sacred. She was bound by the forces of balance and responsibility and essentially bridged the gap between the mortal and the spirit realm. Which, interestingly enough, fun fact since I'm living in Japan and recording this from Tokyo, the real Emperor of Japan is also considered as the highest priest of Shinto and kind of a connecting factor between the spirit and the living world. Now, as a child, while all the other kids of Kamigawa were off partying, she was studying the blade. And it turns out that this is where she forged her deep bond with none other than Kaito Shizuki. Kaito here was loud, rowdy, and boisterous, and the Wanderer was, well, pretty nasty with it. As you could expect, the two grew pretty close, sparring together. Everything was a competition, and their bond was very natural and easy. It was a true friendship rooted in trust and mutual respect. Now, what I think is actually really cool here in the story is that despite their very clear skill gap, the two on a more cosmic scale actually stayed equals. Because as you and I know, or maybe you're new to Magic and learning everything from my videos, which would be very cool, let me know if that's the case, but you should probably know that Kaito also later on becomes a Planeswalker in his very own right. A pretty strong one, actually. So it's really fun to see these two never really leave each other in the dust, but stay close together, even when it comes to shifting through the Magic multiverse itself. The buddy system still is effective. However, at this earlier stage of the story, they were simply two young people trying to find their own place in a rapidly modernizing Kamigawa. That's actually kind of how I feel in Tokyo right now, except I'm not a teenage blade master, but instead an almost 30-something YouTuber who covers Magic the Gathering and One Piece. Heavy is the burden that falls upon us, Wanderer, isn't it? We're so similar. The Wanderer's mentor was none other than Lightpaws here, a kitsune guardian who embodied discipline and tradition. And Lightpaws trained her in many ways, such as combat, but also the mind. Patience, virtues, balance. The kitsune was a pretty damn good teacher. Now, my personal favorite lesson that Lightpaws actually had the Wanderer go through was her journey with Yoshimaru, because on the first day of their training, LP here gave TW a pup named Yoshimaru. She was tasked by her master with raising it by hand, as if she could care for this dog, she could eventually care for the entire kingdom in the future. And as a result, the Wanderer trained the most loyal hound of the imperial household. This actually is a little bit of a nod to a very famous, legend here in Japan. You might have heard about Hachiko, the dog statue that is at Shibuya Crossing, that famous crossing that every single shot of any movie ever in Japan uses. Basically, the story is that this dog was so loyal, it accompanied its owner every day to work, seeing him off at the station, until one day the owner actually died and he never came back, but Hachiko would still wait at the station every day through cold and any weather until he himself died, waiting for his owner to come back. Sad, and also just the pure image of loyalty. And then came Tezzeret. Messy Tezzy here, as I like to call him, is a thrall of New Phyrexia obsessed with planar manipulation. He ventured to Kamigawa to experiment with a prototype version of what would later become the Reality Chip, a great card that I actually used to run in my Hammer Time Modern deck for a while. Lets you look at the top card of your library, sometimes cast it if you equip it to a creature, pretty cool. But Tezzeret's plan was pretty simple. Exert control over Kamigawa's Kami and the planar essence embodied by Kyodai. And of course, since the Wanderer is again quite literally bonded to Kyodai, the future Empress had to intervene here. Nobody was gonna mess with her spirit dragon, not without some divine judgment. And then something went catastrophically wrong. Now, from what I've gathered here, the experimental reality chip got a little bit funky. Freaky even. It kind of interacted with the Wanderer's innate bond to Kyodai, subsequently destabilizing her Planeswalker spark before it had ever even fully matured. And the trauma inflicted by Tezzeret ignited her Planeswalker spark prematurely, which fractured in the process. Now, to be honest with you, I personally didn't even realize it worked that way. Apparently, you're actually born with the Planeswalker spark and it has to be awakened or get implanted in you. Kind of wonder if Wizards will actually play on this concept a little bit more in the future, because it sounds very cool and like it would make for some pretty cool lore, I think. Now, in a flash of white, blinding light, the soon-to-be Empress vanished from Kamigawa, her body ripped across the blind eternities. And upon landing, she now realized the truth of her tragic state. She could not stay anywhere for very long, a complete flip of her previous role tied to Kamigawa itself. Now, through meditation and some very diligent concentration, she actually managed to anchor herself, at least temporarily, but the pull of the multiverse itself dragged her spark around like a rope pretty much. And so, Kamigawa lost its ruler, Kaito lost his closest friend, and poor Yoshimaru lost his mama. But at least, in return, the multiverse gained a silent, wandering guardian who appeared in moments of crisis to strike down those who meddled with balance. And that's Fibblefin Sick, Warrior of the Shattered Spark. Okay, so that's my girl's background lore. Now let's dive into when she actually made her gameplay debut. That actually came during one of the multiverse's darkest hours, the War of the Spark on Ravnica. And I think you'd agree it kind of makes sense that someone with a broken spark would be easily dragged into Big Dog Bolus's great scheme to consume, well, all the sparks. I kind of wonder if hers tasted good or funky. Needs a little bit more salt, I think. Now, the Wanderer was drawn by the Interplanar Beacon. TLDR here, it's a device designed to summon planeswalkers to the plane so that Bolus could gobble up all their sparks. She arrived here alongside dozens of others and found herself trapped by Nicol Bolas's immortal son. Pretty much Magic Smash Bros. And in a twist of fate, unlike her usual fleeting appearances, she was forced to stay here by the Immortal Son's power, so naturally, she locked in. Like a flash of lightning, she was mowing down Bolas's dread horde like butter. Using the power of her kinetic redirection, she sliced and diced everyone and anything that opposed her. This, of course, made her especially useful and deadly against charging undead and Eternals. And it was also revealed that she had some sort of weird dynamic with, of all people, Sarkhan Vol, who I will talk about on this channel at some point soon. My team member Peyton really wants to work on this video, so I think we're gonna have to do it soon, but if you want to see it sooner rather than later, let me know in the comments. Anyways, Sarkhan is obsessed with dragons and destiny, and the Wanderer was peculiar to say the least, right? He kind of saw her as a living paradox, a planeswalker who didn't seem entirely in control of her own existence, because, well, she wasn't, right? We saw that. Anyways, back to SparkCon 2019. Eventually, of course, as we know, Bolas fell and the Immortal Sun was deactivated, and just as swiftly as she had arrived here, the Wanderer vanished once more. The Hunt for Tezzy Boy. After the absolute bloodbath on Ravnica, the Wanderer's path somewhat narrowed, fixated on the one who ruined her entire life, Tezzy T, the Mechanical Menace. She started pursuing rumors of him across planes, a classic Planeswalker move by the way, and as you might imagine, her unstable spark made this pursuit very maddening. She would appear on a plane, gather some information, cut down a bad guy or two, and then vanish again before getting any real closure. And it makes me wonder if this is what happened when my ex stopped talking to me. Surely she just planeswalked away, right? Anyways, around now is when she appeared on Ikoria, a sick-ass monster plane full of big old monsters, like my boy Loris here. I absolutely love planes like this, except for Gigantha. That's a nasty card, and you got banned in Modern for a reason. Anyways, she intervened here during a monster attack, cutting down a colossal threat with clinical efficiency. Here she met Vivian Reed, and right when the gossip they were sharing got really juicy, the Wanderer just, again, disappeared mid-conversation. But this time, luck was actually on her side because she somehow made it back home to Neo Kamigawa. But at this point, her home had changed. Neon lights cut through the skyline. Technology and tradition clashed in some dazzling tension. And her best buddy, Kaito, was there, but can I say, he was a stud now. He was older, sharper, even a little bit wiser, but most importantly, he now carried his own spark. The reunion was brief, but very heavy since there was so much to catch up on. And most importantly, for the sake of the plane, the truth of her identity as the lost Empress of Kamigawa came to light. Luckily, Kaito had found the blueprints for the reality chip and perfected it. It latched onto the Wanderer, giving her some stability when it came to the nasty habit of plane shifting. And in the climax of Neon Dynasty, the set that this lore is actually from, by the way, with the crazy anime trailer that I still cry every time I watch, the Wanderer was able to reconnect with Kyodai, reclaiming the bond that had once been corrupted. And with the help of Kaito and some others, she thwarted Tezzeret's scheme. But sadly, not before he was able to complete a fellow Kamigawan planeswalker and my best girl, Tamio here. And eventually, her chip no longer sufficed and she was being torn away from Kamigawa on the cusp of the Phyrexian invasion once again. And as you can probably tell, this is when the whole Lost Empress thing really came into play, because turns out that Kamigawa needed a leader, especially because, well, you know, the current leader was about to vanish into the multiverse again, so realizing that Kaito as a planeswalker would probably be essential in the coming war, the Wanderer appointed, drumroll, Lightpaws as Lord Regent. And thus, as quickly as the Wanderer had returned, she vanished once again. Damn, I was really pulling for her this time. God damn, so close. Slay, Empress, slay. And now we enter the new Phyrexian invasion, which is becoming one of my favorite parts of the lore we talk about in like every single video. I don't know, like I love the whole man versus man machine thing that it's kind of got going on. And all the lore with it is just so sick since it ties really deep into early Magic lore too. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Bolas and the War of the Spark, but Phyrexia has been kind of winning me over, which I realize is their whole stick. I wonder, is that a controversial take? Let me know. And while you're down there, consider subscribing too, because we're still like in the lower numbers. Would be really nice if you enjoyed these videos and want to see more to just sub and be part of the channel. So share the love that ideally I can make more of these videos at an even faster rate in the future. And as I already said earlier, if you have any other types of content you want me to make on the channel, just let me know too. Anyhow, now back to the good old, or I guess good new Phyrexian invasion, because the instability of the Wanderer's Spark made coordination nearly impossible. She was like everyone's favorite Discord buddy. She'd pop in for a second and then vanish at critical moments for long periods of time. And as you can expect, that level of unpredictability costs some lives. So in a really unfortunate but necessary realization, the Wanderer confronted the fact that her presence, while powerful, was also unreliable, and unreliable enough that she might be a real danger to her allies. Like, it's really brutal to see her have to, you know, deal with that during a multiversal war with the greatest, hear me out, of all time, Elish Norn. Actually, my personal hear me out is actually Emrakul, but they're both total baddies, don't get me wrong. However, it was this moment that her plane shifting became a blessing instead of a curse, because her involuntary spark surge dragged her all the way to Zhalfir, which might not mean anything to you unless you've maybe seen my Teferi video, because essentially Zhalfir is a kingdom on Dominaria that was phased out of time by Teferi's protection. It was done during the original first Phyrexian invasion, and as of that moment, only like 10 years had really passed in the story. And turns out that these guys being stuck in time were still preparing for the original Phyrexian invasion, which I just think is a hilarious and really clever play from Wizards to throw that into the lore. Anyhow, here she was able to reconnect with Teferi, who had failed in his efforts to go back in time and learn the secrets of how his master, Urza, ended the first Phyrexian invasion. But he also realized something. If the Wanderer had made it to Zhalfir as he did, it meant that Zhalfir was not just displaced from time, but also a sort of pocket plane, meaning that it could be navigated to, just not by traditional means. And so that entire displacement thing then became part of a larger unfolding strategy that would eventually restore Zhalfir to reality and end New Phyrexia once and for all. Hell yeah! But before all that, she had to face one of the invasion's most devastating sights, Tamiyo completed. I can't even look at it. Makes me so sad. I want to cry. Every time I have to talk about this, I want to cry. I hate this stupid freaking moment, man. All right. The once gentle, kind, wise moonfolk Tamiyo stood now as a powerful Phyrexian warrior. And she needed to be killed, not out of rage or anger, but out of love, respect, and kindness. As is the way of the Bushido, the Wanderer treated her friend with kindness and respect, even as enemies. And don't get me wrong, their confrontation was brutal and very tragic. The Wanderer's blade swiftly cut down Tamiyo, and in her final moments, Tamiyo thanked the Wanderer, explaining that she had spent their battle pulling her punches as much as she could so that the noble warrior could save her. And I hate how much I love this fight, because when you pull out a little bit and look at it, their battle kind of symbolized everything at stake with the entire Phyrexian invasion. I mean, knowledge was twisted, Tamiyo's loyalty was weaponized against her own people, and her entire identity was pretty much erased. This is what would happen to all of Kamigawa if the Wanderer didn't succeed or intervene here. Now, as the invasion reached its real climax, a big old tree named Realmbreaker and the Planeswalker Ren swapped Zhalfir with New Phyrexia, locking the Phyrexians out of time and out of the blind eternities altogether. Whew, okay, wow, that's a lot. Are we all good? Check in, you good? I'm not. This part of the lore is like a gut punch for me every time. I hate seeing my favorite character struggle. We've got some more stuff to cover though, so let's hang in there and continue. Next on the menu is, of course, the de-sparking. Essentially, in an act of cosmic rebalancing across the multiverse, many of the Planeswalkers lost their sparks. We're talking lots of classics like Sarkhan, Nissa, Karn, Teferi, and yes, in this case also, the Wanderer herself. Now, for many, this was a real loss, part of their biggest power, For others, it was devastation, but for my best girl here, as you can imagine, it was liberation. She was now no longer pulled across planes all the time at a moment's notice. She could finally stand still. She could finally be the Empress that she was meant to be. No longer concealing, but feeling and letting them know. 'Cause now she knows. Let it go. Oh, sorry. I got carried away. Next section, please. Descent into Duskmourn. Even without her spark, the Wanderer's story did not end here, and she still needed to travel the multiverse using the newly formed Omen Paths, basically tunnels throughout the Blight Eternities that allowed casual planeswalking, I guess is what you could describe it as. And her adventures then took her to Duskmourn as she searched for Nashi, Tamio's adopted rat kid. No, literally, he's a rat kid. And he actually had Tamio's remaining spirit, consciousness, and tech double thingy with him, trapped in a plane defined by horror, a massive predatory labyrinth that preyed on fears, regrets, and negative feelings. Now, for the first time in her entire life, the Wanderer actually chose which plane she wanted to go to and stepped into the darkness, into a living nightmare to save both Tamio and Nashi, because she's a baddie and leads by commie damn example. Thematically speaking, it's actually kind of awesome that the Wanderer was there, because for so long she had been the one lost between worlds, but instead, now she served as a blinding sword shredding through that darkness. She was capable of navigating this plane built to make others feel lost the same way she was her entire life, basically, which I love. Really, it's so rad, but she did a whole bunch of cult murdering, chopping up zealots who believed the house plane thing itself was a living divinity thing. This set got really weird, but as you can also imagine, in a place meant to twist your mind into a bunch of little itty-bitty pieces, combat was only half the battle here. For the Wanderer specifically, that meant confronting absence. She saw versions and visions of Kamigawa without her, how her absence forced Kaito into leadership alone, how she plagued her master Lightpaws with the weight of regency, and in a really sad vision, she had to watch Yoshimaru aging in quiet loyalty too. That one, if you watched John Wick, you know, sad dog story really always pulls at the heartstrings. How could you make the doggo feel bad? How dare you? Wizards. So this House of Hell showed her what might have been if she had never vanished and what had been lost because she did. But unlike in real life, the house does not always win, it turns out. Don't go gambling, kids. Years ago, those thoughts might have shattered her spirit, preying on the things that she had always struggled with. Pain, instability, the vanishing act that she always pulled, right? But not today, buddy. She didn't have a spark, and she was glowing anyways. She endured, she meditated, and of course, she succeeded. In Duskmourn, stripped of her spark, the Wanderer truly for the first time became herself, defined by resolve instead of instability, helping save Nashi, releasing Tamio's spirit, and saving the day. Right? Well, sort of. You see, at the center of this entire thing was a demon named Valgavoth, which is a card that is not fun to play against, but pretty cool. He wanted Tamio's memories, and he got them. Even though the Wanderer pushed through many betrayals, many trials, and did save Nashi and Tamio, damage had been done here. Valgavoth opened a path to Instrat, the gothic horror plane that we love, that Tamio had also some history with, and Tamio had sealed away a massive Eldrazi, an interplanar deity, inside of Instrat's moon. And I personally think that Valgavoth needed her memories to unravel that thing specifically somehow. But to be fair, that's just a little working theory I've been dabbling with, we don't know, which means that maybe the next time we return to Instrat or into the deeper magic lore, Emrakul will probably return. And so you can get caught up on everything that happened there. Check out this video right here where I dug deep into Tamio's lore. It's a real trip and easily one of my favorite videos I've made so far on the channel, so keep the Kamigawa train running and check it out. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching, and again, Hope you enjoy these videos. Subscribe. I'll see you in the next one next week. Until then, have a great week.